Okay, Sio Nigada, Cherokee people, welcome to the special Cherokee Nation Council meeting. At this time, if you can, stand. Councilor Dobbins, would you please bless the meeting?
Father, thank you for this special time you granted to us to once again tend to the Cherokee's business, but may we ever be mindful that we are accountable to one another, to each other, but most importantly, we're accountable to you. Pray you bless our time together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Counselor. Roll call, Shelley.
Yes, sir. Buell Anglin.
Honey.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Harley Buzzard. Joe Bird.
Honey.
Sean Crittenden. Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Wanda Hatfield. Rex Jordan. Dick Lay. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Mary Bakershaw. E.O. Smith.
Here.
Janice Taylor. Victoria Vasquez. David Walkingstick. Brian Warner. We have a quorum.
Okay, the purpose of the meeting will be to consider two items. One is a resolution confirming the appointment of Frankie Hargis as Registrar, Cherokee Nation Registration Committee. I need a motion on that.
So moved.
Got a motion? Second. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Is Councilor Hargis here? Is there anything you want to say?
Thank you for your support, and I'll do everything I can to do a good job. Okay. And are we doing the swearing in right now, or?
We can. Judge, is that okay?
Fine with me.
We have Chief Justice Judge Garrett with us. Thank you.
You're bossy.
All right, put your left hand on the Bible. And if you will, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
Frankie Hargis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the Registrar of the Cherokee Nation
of the Registrar of the Cherokee Nation
and will,
to
the best of my ability,
the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect,
and defend the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation
the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation
and of the United States of America.
and of the United States of America.
And I swear further that I will do everything within my powers
to
preserve the to preserve the culture, heritage, and traditions of the Cherokee Nation. Congratulations.
It's going to be hard to replace a Frankie Hargis. It's like it's hard to replace a Baker Mayfield, but we're going to come up with somebody. Okay, next item on the agenda, second resolution. Councilor Austin, you want to take that?
Sure. This is a resolution confirming, pardon me, wrong one. This is a resolution establishing the date of the special election to fill a vacancy for the Tribal Council member for District 7 of the Council of the Cherokee Nation. And I'd make a motion for its approval with a motion to substitute resolution and timeline provided for previous resolution and timeline.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion?
Speaker.
Yes, sir. Councilor Crittenden?
Yes, sir. Pertaining to the vote tonight, I've got a few words. I've also got some questions for the Election Commission that you could argue would pertain to this election. When would be a good time to ask those questions?
Probably right now.
Okay. All right. I've been emailing the Election Commission a few things that's come up in my mind after looking at this this election that came really quick. And I would just like to confirm a couple of the answers, and just while we're talking about elections, this may ease my mind and, you know, some of the others that may be running for this seat. But I want to be clear on this because I haven't been clear. I've heard rumors, you know, over the years how things are done. But and I'm sure that I'll be emailing some more questions, because just like going into a softball game, basketball game, football game when I coach, I want to make sure I know the rules, because I want my kids to have the same advantage as anybody. So one of the things that kind of surprised me, but was I'd asked the commission, can I, assuming, let's just hypothetically say I was going to run for something in June. Okay. When that time comes on these absentee ballot request forms, there's a spot on the bottom that says where the ballot should be mailed to. And I think I'm clear on this. The ones that I know would vote for me, I can have them put Sean Crittenden's address, and their absentee ballot comes to my mailbox. And I think I'm reading that right. So that's legal, right? Yes.
Yes, you had asked that question of the commission, and I think we forwarded to you an Attorney General opinion that addresses that issue. It came up during the 2017 election, and that opinion did state that unless the voter, well, first it states if there's any irregularities in the ballots, which we had in the previous election, which is like whiteouts or different writing as the word was mailed to, then the commission could call the voter and confirm that they wanted that mailed to that address. If they couldn't get a hold of the voter or didn't have any irregularities in it, and the opinion of the Attorney General was that those ballots could be mailed to the address that the voter had requested that they be mailed to.
Even if it's the candidates.
And it's now the law until the court changes it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all of those issues, that opinion was based upon the election law. And all of those issues are addressed in the election law. Some of them that are not real clear as to what might be the interpretation. That's when it's times that there will be an opinion from the Attorney General. That issue is one that was considered by the commission after the 2017 election. It was presented to the council. The council had an opportunity to change that law they wanted to clarify for sure where the council wanted ballots to be mailed. Well, they could be mailed to candidates. They had to be mailed to the address of the voter. And the council did not take any action to amend the law this last year for the law to see what happened. 2017 election.
Okay. And while we're talking about it, and I know we'd like to get out of here a little early, I've got a few more questions while we all suited up and came. All right. Another one I've sent and haven't heard back. Can my spouse notarize the absentee ballots?
It's under law, and it's true in state of Oklahoma notaries and Cherokee notaries. A notary can notarize any absentee ballot. Any notary, they can notarize any person's signature except their own. The wife can notarize your signature, okay, but she can't notarize your own.
She can notarize the voters.
Yes, she can notarize any notary can vote. Notarize any signature except her own signature.
And it's unlimited.
It's unlimited under Cherokee law. Oklahoma law, Oklahoma elections limits that notary to 10. but
Cherokee Nation don't fall under that.
apply to Cherokee elections. Any Oklahoma notary or any Cherokee notary could notarize all the ballots. That was another issue that was presented to be considered in the 2017 election. The law didn't change, still the same.
Okay, and just one more question, and this came up to me because my whole problem with this, the quick times is not the quickness of it, it's I envisioned when we started this some kind of notice, some kind of something that everyone that wanted to run would say, here's your starting line, here's your finish line, go. And I had someone I know that was going to, thinking about filing, asking some questions. He was told at the election commission, well, we can't really tell you anything till the 14th. And all the while, some folks were doing some things. But this question, I told a couple people, it's like that Andy Griffith episode where the new doctor's in town and Barney thinks he's trying to steal Ellie. So Barney goes in there and is faking a little physical, and all of a sudden that doctor's looking at Barney real serious, and he said, heck with Andy, am I going to make it? So when I was asking questions for other people, I was thinking, well, I might run in June, maybe. I'm not announcing anything. Can I, tomorrow, if I choose to, start going door to door? Absentee request ballots, getting that filled out on either a professional form, and I was told a napkin would work. Can I start that tomorrow for the June election if I'm planning on running?
You had requested that in writing from the commission a week ago. They forwarded it to me, and I'm in the process of researching that. The election law is not real clear on when you can start accepting them, but it is clear that the election commission can accept them on certain dates. And the election law doesn't say when it has to be collected or received by you or whatever. We're in the process of researching that, and we will have an opinion in a few days to you on that.
Okay, and I was told the other day that some of these questions is the first time they've ever been asked, and I was surprised because, like this current election, some of the folks, they're all good people, but some of them had absolutely no idea when they could start it. There were some of them calling me just recently, can I start it yet? And I didn't know what to tell them. And we all want transparency. In my classroom, on the council seat, the election commission, we want transparency. And the way that I see to do that is if some guy that just asks a question gets a yes, Sean, you can. No, Sean, you can't. And that's where transparency is going to come from, not these questions that's just in limbo and good luck to the one that can figure it out and use it. But
I wish it were simple enough that they could always be answered with yes or no.
Well, I would hope some of these could be, but I appreciate you answering those, and I'd appreciate getting the answers back because there's some people hard-headed enough to look at what others are doing or have been doing and think, I might not agree with that, but if that's the game, I can probably figure it out and play it myself.
I think there is one part of your question that can be answered, and the commission has had this practice in the past. The election law says that a request for an absentee ballot shall be in writing, preferably on the form prescribed by the commission.
Preferably.
It shall contain name, address, citizenship number, and as a proviso, provided that if there's sufficient information on the request to allow the commission to identify the person requesting as a Cherokee voter, and they shall give him an absentee ballot. The commission, it doesn't have to be on the commission's form, and they've not required that in the past. Preferably, the law says, if it has all those things, name, address, citizenship number, or date of birth, any information sufficient to identify that person, the law requires we send them an absentee ballot, even if it's written out on a paper napkin.
All right, preferably. And one last thing. So let's, if it comes back that me or anyone can start doing that, the date is really not that important?
This issue that we're researching 11.
Okay. All right. All right. And while I'm talking, I'm going to finish up here. I've talked to a couple of the candidates, and they would just simply like some more time to gather their thoughts and actions and signs. And we had a poll with the council, and you know, somebody brought up the 26th, and the folks that's reaching out to me, there was a couple of them that would sure like a little more time. So that's how I'm going to be voting. Appreciate you listening to me. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, good questions. But Councilor Shaw?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to request that we hear from our tribal council attorney on the legality of what happened with the absentee ballot request. We need her opinion, I think, before we do anything tonight. We didn't have the opportunity to hear from her at length at the last council meeting.
What is the question now?
I would like to ask her about the legality of the absentee ballot request going back to November the 2nd.
Okay.
Well, my opinion from the last special meeting remains the same. There is on the back of the timeline that was approved by the Election Commission, there is it's an opinion from the Election Commission. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. And it specifically addresses a November 2nd date. So you can take that and decide for yourself, but my opinion as tribal council attorney remains the same, that this violates the Open Meetings Act.
So you feel that that was illegal?
Well, it violates, in my legal opinion, it violates the Open Meetings Act, so that would be illegal.
Illegal. Thank you. That's all I need to hear.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Taylor.
Harvey, I just have a follow-up to one of Sean's questions, and this has been raised before, and I thought I knew the answer, but I'm finding out things. Is there a limit to the number of ballot requests to a single address?
There is no limit in the election law. And again, it's something that presented by the I would like to address the Open Meeting Act question issue. The timeline you have, the previous one, this one, every one of them was adopted by the Commission at an open meeting after notice was given as provided by the Cherokee Open Meeting. So there's no way that that adoption of that timeline could be a violation of the open meeting. The question that Council raised is it consistent with the election law? Does the election law allow you to set that November 2nd timeline? The timeline that we sent to you last, because I knew that question was going to come up, I attached a footnote to that particular timeline that was adopted by the Commission. The footnote was adopted by the Commission also. And it explains the legal basis and the reason behind the November 2nd timeline for accepting that. New York would have all that on it. That's the legal basis that the Election Commission acted.
Okay. Thank you, Harvey. Councilor Taylor, did that answer your question? Okay. Councilor Walkenstick.
Thanks, Speaker. Now, Harvey, the November 2nd, I think the problem we have with all of it is if there was insider information for a candidate, it puts the other people on the outside at a disadvantage. Your first meeting, you guys met on November the 6th to approve, or temporarily to approve this, this timeline. And the November 2nd was on that timeline that you guys had approved. The problem with that is it didn't come to the council until the 15th. And so even if we would have approved it at our last meeting, it would have put the other outsiders at a disadvantage. Not only a 3 to 4 day disadvantage, but a 2-week disadvantage. It's kind of like Councilman Crittenden was talking about. He used the analogy of a race and starting at the same starting spot and the gun goes off. Well, if someone jumps the gun, we're hoping the Election Commission can hold those people accountable for jumping the gun. And at this point, it's up to this body to hold them accountable, because ultimately it falls in our hands. We're the last place that we're going to approve this special or general election. That's my problem I have with it. So does the Election Commission, does it fall under the Open Meetings Act? Do you guys fall under that?
Yes, we certainly do.
Okay.
And all of its meetings were conducted.
Did you guys meet preliminary to November 2nd to approve the November 2nd absentee request date?
No, that date was approved on November 6th.
So it was after the fact. Is there anything with the Election Commission or the Open Meetings Act that allows the approval of dates prior to?
And it was not approved prior to.
When was it? I know it wasn't. It was approved after the fact.
It was approved. Nothing was approved by the Election Commission prior to November 6th. Special meeting. They approved the first timeline that was sent to you.
So the tribal, go ahead, sorry.
And that timeline was considered again at the regular meeting on November 13th, which is just before your council meeting the next day. And it was approved again on that day.
Does the Tribal Council fall under the Open Meetings Act?
What?
Does the Tribal Council fall under the Open Meetings Act?
Tribal Council?
Yes.
You have to add your council that. I couldn't get them.
Do we fall under the Open Meetings Act?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so if we approve this, then we're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Okay, yeah. Well, because we're approving dates that were back in November the 2nd instead of.
That's right.
Yeah.
You just approved the confirmation of the registrar.
Correct.
2 weeks ago, and the Rules Committee approved her 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So we're in the.
Designating a date in the past, in my opinion, this is not a violation of any act.
I noticed on the agenda that at your last meeting that our council attorney was on your agenda. And what was the intent of her being on your agenda?
One of the commissioners asked that be put on there, and it was put on there at the request of that commissioner, because that commissioner felt that the commission had been unduly accused of violating the Open Meeting Act.
Okay, and
Councilor Walker,
yes.
Why don't we stick to what's the question that's pertaining to this
Speaker,
the timeline?
I understand.
See,
I was rushed.
Well, let me
I know,
finish.
I was rushed last meeting, and I want to ask my questions.
Well, yeah, but let me finish. I've got the floor.
Okay.
Okay, and you can ask the question, but you got to let him finish answering your question.
Okay.
You are asking a question, then you're interjecting.
Okay.
And
all right.
the issue with the council, that's a separate issue here. Let's address the timeline. That was your concern. Now, you got the floor.
Okay. Election Commissioner Carol Allen was calling council members to lobby for this timeline. Okay? She called many of us in here. Now, under your own bylaws, the removal for an election commissioner is lobbying either the executive branch or legislative branch for this specific timeline. Now, are you guys aware that Carol Allen was lobbying council members?
I was not aware of that. I don't know if the others were or not.
Rick, were you aware of it? Okay. There probably needs to be an investigation of maybe interviewing council members that was called by Carol Allen and to ask them, and hopefully you guys will I guess, be privy to your bylaws and take some type of action. Because the problem I have with this is that, one is there is influence from an outsider that sent an email to you guys, and Connie Parnell said that you guys didn't approve that timeline that she sent to you guys. But this is identical to the one that I received that had her name on it. Okay? Now, I have problems with that, and I understand that it's legal for an outsider to propose an idea to you guys. But, I don't know, it's just really getting out of hand, in my opinion. But, one last question. The notaries, the Oklahoma notaries versus Cherokee notaries, how many notaries can an Oklahoma notary notarize?
I understand it's 10.
Okay. Okay, what if it's a Cherokee election and there's an Oklahoma notary?
I understand that the Oklahoma law does not apply to Cherokee law. Cherokee law has no limitation on the number of notaries that can be notarized.
Okay.
I don't think Cherokee Council wants to subject itself to Oklahoma law. I agree.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Harvey. Speaker, that's all questions I have. Thank you.
Councilor Lay.
And thank you, Speaker. And this is a lot of good questions here tonight. One thing that bothers me is these elections, one of them was set up, as I understood it, and if I don't have it right, I apologize, through the Thanksgiving holiday. This election timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harvey, is set up to go over Christmas and New Year's. And I don't know, I can't remember ever one of our elections going through Christmas and New Year's. It may have, but I don't recall it. And I'm wondering if I understand there was a poll. Some folks asked for the 26th, but I don't want to try to make that a friendly amendment to the Speaker until I know what that would do to the timelines, and I guess, Harvey, you're probably the best to answer that for me, because I don't want to get everybody cross-threaded.
The timeline that you have is set up for an election for January 5th. The previous timeline you had was December 29th. It was in the holiday. After that, it did not get accepted by the council. We had a request from the Speaker to submit a timeline to the council for a January 5th election. And that's the timeline that you have before you now, which is probably a better time because it is right after the holidays, and there's plenty of time for everybody to get the holidays behind them and not have time to vote. The election commission will have to work some during the holidays, but they're willing to do that. When they're going to follow the timeline, perform all the functions that need to be performed, and have the election on January 5th. And that's what the council does. It's the council's responsibility to call the election and set the dates. And the dates are the timeline that you're going for you. One issue is a constitutional issue that you have to have the election within 90 days of the resignation.
That's correct.
That resignation occurred a few days ago. This is 90 days, as I see it, would run somewhere around the 17th or 18th of February. This timeline finishes the election February 13th at the latest. It could be finished earlier at the latest. And to comply with the constitutional provisions, your duty, we shortened the timeline as much as we could to get it in that time frame, still give ample time for appeal, contest, recounts, all that could happen. We provided for every eventuality of every race, the general and the runoff is the recount itself, the appeal to the Supreme Court, same thing in the recount and the runoff, the recount itself, and the appeal to the Supreme Court. We can still get the election completed, conducted as the Constitution says, on or before February 13th. And that's why the timeline, if you push it up for another week, you're going to be past February 17th or 18th.
Thank you, Harvey.
That's the reason for the short timeline.
Okay.
And again, all that is explained also in the previous resolutions that the council has submitted. And if someone gets a plurality in the first general election and nobody recounts and nobody appeals, then you'll be over early. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One of the, I think one of the questions I have to also is the November 2nd absentee ballots requests are accepted by the Election Commission. Is that still valid? Are we still backing up to that date? And you all have started accepting those, is that correct?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask that Harvey might speak at the, online. People can't hear Harvey. I wonder if he could come to the microphone.
Harvey, do you want to step to the, I was going to ask you to come to the podium.
Sure, I do. Yes, the commission has received several absentee ballot requests already that are sitting there. And they're receiving anything that they received after November 2nd. It is their intent, if you approve the timeline to and the election, to mail absentee ballots for those people. The explanation as a footnote to your timeline explained why the commission felt that way. Basically, it was that they felt when the matter was put on the agenda of the Rules Committee, the public had notice of it, and that would be the appropriate time that people would start sending in requests. Under the election law for the general election, which you're going to hold in 2019, those people can make requests for that election after the first Monday in January. And that's like 30 or so days prior to the time they even file for office. This time is going to be like a couple of weeks or so before they file for office. So the commission felt that having a time in advance of the date they file for office would be appropriate and consistent with what it is for the general election law. And the commission feels that every Cherokee citizen should have an opportunity to request an absentee and to vote, and that they should be given that opportunity. We felt that, and I gave an opinion, that the election law does allow for the commission to set a date to accept absentee ballots prior to the date that the candidates file, or prior to the date that the election is actually set by the council. And anyway, that's the basis, and I think it's fully set out in the footnote to your timeline as to what the reasoning was for the commission.
Well, Harvey, one of the, so if we extend the election to even 1 week, we're going to be in violation of that 90-day provision, or getting over the election if there's a runoff. I think that's what you said.
I think that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
And so one of the questions I heard a while ago, Harvey, was about November 2nd. We as a council, we can't backdate anything. We can't make any law retroactive. And I think that may have been a concern at one time, but it's not now. So,
okay. So, well, this is not a law that we're making, or the commission or the council is making. This is a timeline for the election that's made pursuant to the election law, is the commission's position on that.
Well, it's a resolution. We pass resolutions and acts. So anything we pass, I'm thinking, can't be retroactive, but that's just, if I'm wrong, somebody tell me I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I think you're good now on your timeline. So all of the absentee requests that you've got now, you're going to keep. You're not going to make them start over.
Yes, that's true. And if you change that timeline and require that the absentee ballot request be tomorrow, then we'll have to. We won't be able to send ballots to all those people unless they request another absentee ballot. But that'd be up to the council's discretion if they wanted to do that.
Thank you, Harvey, for clarifying that.
We were just concerned that we would maybe prevent some people from voting.
Sure. Council England?
Yeah, thanks, Speaker. Harvey, while you're up there, just make this very clear to me that, are you saying that anybody can request multiple absentee ballots to your office and they can go to one address? Okay, so when those ballots get mailed to that one address, how's those people going to come back and vote them? Is somebody going to vote those ballots for them and then notarize all of them? How's that going to play out? I mean, to me, that ballot ought to go to somebody's house.
Well, all we
Not to a
know
warehouse.
is that the election law says that the person who requests the absentee ballot may request the commission to send it to an address of their choice.
Right. So how are they going to vote it?
Huh?
How are they going to vote that ballot?
I don't know how they're going to vote it. Nobody does. Though it's that voter's responsibility to make sure he gets the ballot and vote it, and he's the one that asked that it be sent to that address. And again, that was an issue that the commission asked or presented to the council in draft forms for amendments to the election law for the council to consider. And we didn't consider it, here a few months ago. And then we finally ran out of time. So that is an issue that, it is something that the council should and could consider if the council desired, that only be mailed to the address that the voters registered at, then that certainly could be the case. But the problem is that's not how the election law is written right now.
Harvey, how long's that election law been that way, where you could mail to?
Since it was first adopted.
So it's been going on?
There have been no changes in where it was mailed to.
Okay.
Since the act was first adopted in, 2004, I think. Something like that.
Okay. All right. You're clarifying some questions here. Yeah, Councilor Dobbins.
Yes, Harvey, or Council and Speaker, I'd like for the council maybe to revisit this mailing of massive amounts of absentees to one address. I had an experience where 75 ballots got mailed to one P.O. box. That's hardly fair. So I'd like for us to consider revisiting this and make it fair. You mentioned one ballot has to be mailed to a household or whatever, but this upcoming election, you're probably talking hundreds of ballots maybe mailed to one P.O. box.
75 won't be nothing.
Yeah, so this has to be revisited. This can't go on. We have to make our elections authentic. We can't have hundreds of ballots mailed to a P.O. box, and you mentioned whiting out absentee requests and putting a P.O. box. There's all kinds of things going on that we need to, as a council, address and clear it up along with the election commission. Because when it happened to me in 17, I was assured that we're going to take care of it, it's going to be resolved. Well, apparently it has not. Apparently it's still legal to have hundreds of ballots mailed to a P.O. box.
All right, the commission cannot address it. The council has to address that issue.
Yeah, it's the council's responsibility if you want to.
And the commission would certainly welcome any changes the council would like to make in that area. It would make our job easier if you would clarify that.
Great.
Really
Thank you, Harvey.
And with regard to clarify one thing, with regard to the ballots that are mailed to an address other than the voter's registered address, the commission looks at those, and if they see anything irregular about that, if it's got white out on it, if it's scratched out, changed, or if it's in a different handwriting from what the rest of the ballot is, then they consider that to be an irregularity in that request. And they make every attempt to call that voter, contact that voter, and confirm to them that they wanted it mailed to that address that's on the request. And they will do the same thing this time also.
And if I may, that's pretty labor intensive to go chasing down voters.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Councilor Buzzard, do you have a question? I'm going to try to let everybody have a question or two.
I think all of my questions have been answered, although I'm not in favor of the dates on this, but I understand it a little bit better with Harvey's explanation on the thing. But my take is the cost of this election, and could this not have been put off to the general election, Harvey?
Not under the Constitution. The Constitution says if the resignation is within 120 days of the general election, then you have the election at the general election.
Now, you're saying the resignation of what or who?
Resignation of the council.
Council member.
Okay.
There would have been a void in that district for representation, correct?
Yes. And if it's not within 120 days, the Constitution
So the 120 days at this time
requires a special election within 90 days.
Okay, so we wouldn't have fallen into that
And I think
timeline.
the people who drafted the Constitution wanted to assure that there would be the shortest time possible that you would not have a councilor representing that district.
I see. Okay, well, that's my problem. Within the timelines on the election is what I didn't feel like it was fair to the citizens and the candidates both. It sounded to me like we went to the last week that we could have it, so we got to have it. But those are my objections. I'm really not in favor of it, so I'll not be supporting it. But thank you for explaining it to us anyway. Thank you.
You got one more question? Are we good?
Yeah, I just want to be clear on the 90-day thing. Councilor Lay mentioned, now it's 90 days to have an election, right?
As I understand, the Constitution says 90 days to conduct an election. And
does that mean start to finish or just start?
Finish it.
With the runoffs and everything?
Everything.
That's what it means.
That's my opinion.
Okay. And again, I just, you know, our council attorney, different ones have some concerns, and I just want to reiterate that the council, election commission, we're not the ones who made this so time of the essence, if you will. We're presented something, and I can't help again. I can't keep from thinking that this plan has been in the works for a long time, and if it would have been presented to us a few months back, or however long the plan has been in motion, we wouldn't be in this rush. So some of these decisions that we're making that makes us kind of look like we're cantankerous or just trying to be a rear end, we didn't ask to be rushed this way. So I hope that people remember that, and with the concerns, again, I won't be supporting this. I think we need more time to look at these concerns, and that's all I have for now.
And that's well stated. Well, I don't think anybody could forecast that we were going to have a council member resign. And, you know, due to many reasons, don't want to go into those. She had health issues not too long ago, and somebody said, have we ever had an election during the holiday? We haven't had a council member resign during the holiday. That's probably one reason we haven't had one. And it's not the perfect time, but, you know, council, you were elected to make tough decisions, and you know, and we just vote a democratic way, and you have a right to your opinion, and that's the way it works. And I think everybody allowed everybody to have a say in this, have a say-so. We don't all agree. When we walk out of here, we're still going to be united and do what's best for our people, and that's how it works. I started to make a little bit of analogy, but I started to, could we get those people from Florida or Arizona to help us with some of our accounting? Are we doing a pretty good job ourselves?
I hope not.
Okay. Councilor Shambaugh, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So if this, just devil's advocate, if this thing did not happen to go today, say worst case scenario, it didn't happen to go today, that's not what you wanted, what are the options after that?
Well, one option would be to do nothing.
And what would that consist
and
of?
You have a district that's unrepresented
for the rest of its term,
until the general election.
Until that seat became vacant again?
Yes.
Okay.
And you would be in violation of the Constitution during that period of time. And someone mentioned that the commissioners, one of the commissioners was in violation of their bylaws, it could be removed from office. Interestingly, one of the provisions that's a basis for councilors to be removed from their office is dereliction of duty.
So you say that would be because there wasn't a person in every seat. That's why, that would be the reasoning behind that?
It would be because the election was not called within 90 days as the Constitution requires it by the council.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to, the speaker has mentioned the opinions, and everybody's mentioned opinions. I want to say that, you know, I respect the opinion of your attorney. Many of you may have heard, the only thing that attorneys can agree on is to disagree. So I respectfully disagree with her opinion, but I respect her opinion, and certainly she has the right to have it.
And vice versa. Okay. All right, anybody else?
I had one short one.
Okay.
I'm almost done. Well, and I guess my only deal has been this whole time, and you know I asked you questions about the absentee ballots and the backdating. That was my problem I had with it the last time. But, you know, when I listened to the arguments and we're talking about, you know, your reasoning for why you do things and actually your time frame that you have to do things in between, you really can't compare this special election to the general election, because it is very different than a general election, because we already know when the general election is going to happen. Those parameters have already been set. Is that correct? And that is the problem that we're running, and this is the only reason why we're having problems in this one, because those parameters have not been set, and they have had to be set in a very quick manner, and there has been some backdating, and I think a lot of the problems is because of the backdating. But it's not like we didn't know this was going to happen like the general. So, you know, we have X amount of days to do this and X amount of days to do this, and we've tried to jam this all into this time frame. Is there a specific amount of days that you have to get absentees? I mean, that, you know, for a candidate, is there a minimum or maximum number?
In the timeline, there's a day we can first accept them.
I mean, but how many days is that? Do you get to get absentees in a special election or a normal election? How many days?
I believe it's from the first Monday in January until, I'm not sure of the exact time. It seemed like it's sometime in April.
Okay,
but so 90 days or so.
So probably 90 days to get absentees. And so in this special election, it has been cut down to what?
I believe it's January 12th or so.
Okay, so from November 2nd to January 12th?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
And you see no transparency issues by backdating and starting in November 2nd, even though it's now the 20, whatever we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the issue, you know, and I think that you're going to face this whole time. That is the big deal, is time lost. Did everybody know? And later on, if people are going to say, well, I wasn't given time, you know, that's the concern, obviously, that you have to look at too, correct? And I mean, can you justify, I mean, you justify that as being okay?
But the end time in this special election, we picked the last possible end date to receive the absentee ballots, get them processed, or the request for them, process them and get them mailed back out in time. So that date is the last date we could get it. In fact, we have 2 days to print the ballots.
I understand, but that's the problem, that it has pushed your date back before when everything has even been approved. That's the problem.
That's why we wanted to push it back to the earliest possible date to give everybody that knew they were going. They don't have to know who's running. In the general election, they don't know who's going to be running. They just have to know there's going to be an election, then they can request.
Sure, but there's also parameters in that election where you know that this day, it's laid out, you can start doing this on this date, you can start doing on this date, and we don't have that in this election. That is the problem. Would you agree?
I agree with that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, you have a motion and a second. I have a question, Speaker. I'm going to allow you one more question, then we're going to vote on this. You've already had your opinion. Everybody's had a chance to speak.
This is an opinion. This is a question.
Okay.
Okay. Harvey, how are we accepting absentee ballot requests if we don't have an approved election?
Well, we accept them because the people knew there was going to be an election.
Who's the people?
On November 2nd. The public had noticed that you all had that on your agenda on November 2nd. That's the rationale.
When did you guys notify the public?
The council notified the public when they posted the agenda for the Rules Committee meeting. That's the notice that we accepted.
Okay, but how is that giving notice to the people in Adair County that don't have internet or any ways of?
Well, with the same token, the people didn't have notice in Adair County when we had our meeting on November 6th and adopted it. But they're all public meetings. They're all open to the public, and it's public notice. Mm-hmm. Many of them are televised to the public.
What's the window from with your election code? What's the window for the first day to start receiving absentee requests to the election date? Is there a particular window that's put in stone in the election code
for the special election?
Is there any verbiage that is for special election?
There's a section in the election code that addresses special elections, and it says that the commission can set a timeline and they can shorten certain timeline. They can shorten the candidate filing period. They can shorten the dates for receiving and mailing out absentee ballots, and they can shorten the another one is the swearing in date. There's 3 or 4 things that are specifically mentioned in the election code that the commission can shorten on a timeline for a special election. And the date of receiving and mailing absentee ballots is one of the times that's mentioned specifically in the election code, section 51A.
Okay, so this date was set by you guys. So this absentee ballot request date could be pushed up if you guys had approved the timeline.
The request for absentee ballots?
Yes, for the request, to turn the request in, it could be moved up?
Yes, it could be moved up. Could be moved up.
And of course, if those get moved up, then the other ballots will have to be, I guess, thrown away and spoiled.
That's correct.
Okay. And how much does an election cost, generally?
They gave an estimate for this election, and I think it was in the area of $125,000 for the special election. And it's not in our budget, by the way.
So council members, don't be resigning, okay?
Speaker, that's all my questions. Thank you for letting me
We're going
ask
to do a
those.
roll call vote. Shelley?
Speaker Burr.
We're going to do a roll call vote.
Can I sit down, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, sir.
Dick Lay.
No.
Mike Shambaugh.
No.
Mary Baker Shaw.
No.
E.O. Smith.
Yes.
Janice Taylor.
Yes.
Victoria Vasquez.
Yes.
David Walkenstick.
No.
Brian Warner.
Yes.
Buell England.
No.
Keith Austin.
Yes.
Harley Buzzard.
No.
Joe Byrd.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Sean Crittenden.
No.
Mike Dobbins.
Yes.
Wanda Hatfield.
Yes.
Rex Jordan.
Yes.
Nine, 7.
We have 9 yes, 7 no. Motion passes.
Joe?
Need a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second. Thanks, everybody, for coming, Harvey. Appreciate you clarifying some of our questions that we had. Thank you.